everyone had a place on the table, a place in the sun for a culture of equal opportunity where every Zimbabwean served in equal measure. 𝐂𝐻𝐻𝐷𝒂𝒛𝒆�𝒃 takazviramba. Our vision 2030 is for all of us. Kwete dzamunotimbinga kuhondo taidziti zvigananda. Those who grow big tummies through ill-gotten wealth and questionable morals. We all swore to a shared future in which everyone had a place on the table, a place in the sun for a culture of equal opportunity where every Zimbabwean served in equal measure. 𝐂𝐻𝐻𝐷𝒂𝒛𝒆�𝒃 takazviramba. Our vision 2030 is for all of us. Kwete dzamunotimbinga kuhondo taidziti zvigananda. Those who grow big tummies through ill-gotten wealth and questionable morals. We all swore to a shared future in which everyone had a place on the table, a place in the sun for a culture of equal opportunity where every Zimbabwean served in equal measure. 𝒂𝒻𝒻𝒄 takazviramba. Our vision 2030 is for all of us. Kwete dzamunotimbinga kuhondo taidziti zvigananda. Those who grow big tummies through ill-gotten wealth and questionable morals. We all swore to a shared future in which everyone had a place on the table, a place in the sun for a culture of equal opportunity where every Zimbabwean served in equal measure. 𝒂𝒻𝒻𝒄.
Zimbabwe Vice President Constantino Chiwenga's Roman Catholic link. What is happening in the nation of Zimbabwe? Remember in 2017 the role that Father Fidelis Mukonori plays in the Zimbabwe coup. Now we're seeing images emerging of our Vice President Constantino Chiwenga on social media. Ladies and gentlemen, in this video we're going to be diving deep into the Vice President Constantino Chiwenga Roman Catholic link and the history of Roman Catholic Church influence in Zimbabwe politics and what this means right about now in the nation, the happenings right now, the Rosary and the revolution. We see an image shared by children of Zimbabwe War Veterans Associations on social media. Now the image that is showing on the screen right now, the image depicts a meeting between Zimbabwe Catholic bishops and a central figure, Constantino Chiwenga, dressed in blue. Now the church's strategic position with 8% of Zimbabwe's population as Catholics as per 2017 Inter Censal Demography Survey suggests a deliberate message of unity and endorsement, challenging the message of political neutrality given past interventions like the 2005 election critics. What does this all mean for Zimbabwe? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to everybody who is watching us live. Right about now, to those watching us live, you can write your comments in the top chat or in the super chat. That's how I can get to see your names as we dive into this saga that is unraveling in the nation of Zimbabwe. Ladies and gentlemen, What do a Rosary, a Coup, and a Vice President have in common? This isn't your average Sunday sermon. Welcome to the gripping, complex, and controversial story of Catholics' role in Zimbabwean politics and its global legacy of power, resistance, and behind-the-scenes diplomacy. From colonial missionaries all the way to Robert Mugabe's regime, to coup mediations and modern-day alliances with political giants like Constantino Chiwenga, the church has never been just about prayers. Ladies and gentlemen, let us break it down. The Catholic Church in Zimbabwe. The Catholic isn't just a place of worship. It's a political actor, a symbol of resistance, and sometimes a strategic ally, rooted in the global Catholic Church under the Pope. Its Zimbabwean story blends missionary history with serious political influence. Back in the colonial era, Catholicism was first introduced by Portuguese missionaries in the 1500s, but the real expansion came in 1870 through the Jesuits. During British colonial rule, the church helped run schools, educating both settlers and African communities. But here's the twist. In doing so, it helped raise the very minds that would later resist colonialism. Post-independence. After independence in 1980, the game changed. Robert Mugabe, a lifelong Catholic. Robert Mugabe, a lifelong Catholic, initially kept a good relationship with the church, but his rule turned authoritarian and the church pushed back. Not just pushed back, the church pushed back hard. The Zimbabwe Catholic Bishops' Conference began dropping powerful pastoral letters. In 2005, they openly condemned election rigging and human rights abuses. One voice stood out, Archbishop Pius Ncube of Bulawayo, bold and outspoken and eventually forced to resign in 2007 after what many believe was a government-orchestrated scandal. Fast forward to where we are right now. In the year 2025, a photo surfaces Zimbabwe's bishops standing next to Vice President Constantino Chiwenga. Is it support, mediation, a political symbolism? Whatever it is, it proves the church is still in the room in the nation of Zimbabwe. But this isn't just a Zimbabwean story. It's a the Catholic Church has a long global history of balancing faith and politics. In early days, church leaders like SBS preached political neutrality. Others like Saint Augustine saw value in working even with pagan governments if it meant protecting Christians. It was the start of a long relationship between the altar and the throne. By the Middle Ages, the church wasn't just influencing politics, it was running it. In the 800 AD, the Pope crowned 𝐀𝐉𝐀𝐌𝐔𝐊𝐿, turning a king into an emperor. But with power came conflict, like the investiture controversy, where popes and kings fought over who was the boss. Fast forward to 1891, Pope Leo VIII writes Rerum Novarum, a bold stance against unchecked capitalism, sparking global Catholic movements for workers' rights. Then came Vatican II in the late 1960s, ushering in support for democratization. But the church also made shady deals, like in 1933, pact with Nazi Germany to protect its own survival. Today, the church is vocal in places like Latin America, where liberation theology thrives, but more reserved in stable democracies, always watching and always influencing. Now, Chiwenga Catholicism. Let's zoom in on Vice President Constantino Chiwenga, former general, political heavyweight, and yes, a Roman Catholic advocate. Baptized in the year 1956, carried a rosary during Zimbabwe's liberation war. In a 2025 interview, he credits his faith with his discipline, says it keeps him grounded and makes him arrive early to work. On February 4, 2025, Chiwenga and his family were officially inducted into the Catholic Guild at Immaculate Conception Church in Harare. The Guild promotes prayers, education, and community service, but make no mistake, this was also a public political statement. So now we ask, is this true devotion or a strategic alignment? When bishops pose with powerful men, history tells us it's rarely about religion. 2017, Coup and Father Fidelis Mukonori. Let's rewind to the year 2017 when Zimbabwe military moved against Mugabe. One man stepped in to mediate, not a general, not a politician, a priest, Father Fidelis Mukonori, a Jesuit with deep political ties, ordained in 1991, trusted by Mugabe, connected to the generals. On the night of the coup, he was summoned to mediate. He convinced Mugabe to step down peacefully. No gunshots, no bloodshed, just quiet negotiations, and a priest at the center of it all. While bishops stayed silent, Mukonori moved behind the scenes. A deliberate balance, public neutrality, private influence, a strategy used by the church for centuries. Mukonori's role solidified the church's image as a stabilizing force, but also blurred the lines between mediator and military ally. This tension is still playing out today, especially with that 2025 VP Chiwenga photo. So what are we looking at? A church that moves with wisdom, a church that sometimes a prophet, a church that sometimes a politician. In Zimbabwe, it has critiqued dictators, brokered transitions, and now might this be just a blessing in the next ruler in line? Like in global history, the church here walks the line between justice and survival. If you thought the church was just about saving souls, think again. Sometimes it's also about saving regimes or replacing them. So, is this faith in action or strategy in disguise? what is happening in the nation of Zimbabwe. Remember, at one time, we see Christopher Mnangagwa making utterances, and this is what he had to say.
You speak about
to say, let the president be succeeded today. Because there are people who are trying to push agendas of immediate succession to the president, even when we're outside of the constitution. Why do you want to have a 31 March uprising, which you were promoting, when you know exactly that 2028 the party will go to the elections? Why were you interviewing people who were trying to undermine the institution and giving them a platform where they want to go, seeking you to deliver that message? This is what offends the people in the party. That there are some people who are within who wants to circumvent the constitution, to subvert the constitutional order in Zimbabwe. Look, he was given a mandate in 2023. 2028 is still a long way off. In the meantime, he has to deliver on the mandate. And what I spent my time talking to about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, exactly the president delivering on the mandate of prosperity which was given by the people of Zimbabwe, because that's what they want. People of Zimbabwe don't vote for presidents so that they are successors. The business of the electorate. The electorate votes for a person who can have a manifesto which says, I'm going to make your life better. Why can't those who are coming to you, who are from within the party, who say we want to subvert, why can't they hold their yokes? They can hold on until the time comes. There was an attempt at a premature foisting of a succession. Expenses with a president who is constitutionally elected today. And that was wrong. That's what incensed the people of the membership of ZANU-PF. They are happy with their president. They want him to discharge that mandate. Because all the big projects which I'm talking about, which foist Zimbabwe on the top of even European countries in steel sectors, in lithium. This is a hallmark of a man who knows what he's doing and has got 5 years to deliver that mandate for 5 years. Come 28, you can talk about succession.
You yourself.
Let him follow up.
Yes. You yourself led a drive. You led a drive to remove a president who was constitutionally elected, to remove him from power before his mandate was due. You removed President Robert Mugabe. Why can't you allow others, if they so wish, to do what you did?
The reason why President Mugabe had to be removed is very clear. Along the way, he had decided to create a dynasty out of this country. So he was moving with his own succession agenda outside the context of the Zimbabwe people. He had turned his house and his household into a courthouse of intrigue against the constitution of Zimbabwe. This is what then led to those who had put him in power originally, the war veterans. We know where Mugabe came from. We know how he got to that power. We made it possible. The Mnangagwa document, we made it possible. The war which was fought, we made it possible. He has no particular possession of the attributes of that war. He can't say it's my war. He couldn't.
After this Mnangagwa video, we would see many videos like from 𝐂𝐡𝐢𝐰𝐞𝐧𝐠𝐚, this one.
Chimuga ndiye company inonzi Fossil Contracting. Saka pese pamunoona pachigadzirwa nemarodzi ndiye uyu ndiye chigananda manje yakona company yake ndio.
We see 𝐂𝐡𝐢𝐰𝐞𝐧𝐠𝐚 talk about Chigananda, uyu ndiye Chigananda. He doesn't end there.
Kana une wealth, une army, you are able to fight you are able to protect yourself. But the way the world is not power. So can I tell wealth to the power to the arm?
When you have wealth, you have got an army that is Kudakwash. In all this, is he dissing Vice President Constantino Chiwenga? Why would he make such utterances? Ladies and gentlemen, let's dive even deeper into Chiwenga's, Vice President Chiwenga's Catholic link and what this means for Zimbabwe's future. Constantino Dominic Gouveia, Chiwenga, Zimbabwe Vice President since 2017, has a well-documented Catholic upbringing that has shaped his identity and public life. Born August 25, 1956, he was baptized into the Catholic faith. He attended St. Mary's Mission Wedza for his O-level, a Catholic institution that has also educated notable figures like Parents Shiri. This early immersion in a Catholic educational environment likely instilled a strong religious foundation. Liberation War influence. During the 1973 to 1979 Liberation Bush War, Chiwenga, under the nom de guerre Dominic Chinenge, carried a rosary, a personal statement to his faith amid conflict. This practice reflects a blend of spirituality and resilience, traits he later emphasized in his military and political career. Chiwenga earned a PhD in ethics from University of KwaZulu-Natal in 2015, a field with strong Catholic philosophical roots, suggesting an intellectual engagement with his faith. In a 2025 interview with the Herald, he credited his early morning arrivals, 6 a.m. at work, and a balanced lifestyle to Catholic discipline, reinforcing his public narrative. Recent public manifestations. February 4, 2025, Chiwenga, alongside his wife and sons, was inducted into the Roman Catholic Guild at Immaculate Conception Church in Harare. The Guild focused on prayer, education, and community service. July 13, 2025, this image we showed earlier shows Chiwenga dressed in blue, flanked by Catholic bishops in a setting with a Virgin Mary statue. His central positioning, as noted by commentator Tainash, suggests symbolic endorsement by the church. This aligns with the Zimbabwe Catholic Conference ZCBC historical use of imagery to signal a political message, as seen in their 2025 logo unveiling. So what are the political implications of this? Chiwenga's link intersects with his role as a key figure in Zimbabwe's ZANU-PF party and his past as a military leader during the 2017 coup. His faith provides a moral veneer to his leadership, contrasting with criticism of corruption or authoritarianism. E.g., comments on X linking Mugabe's Catholicism to looting. The church support implied by the July 2025 photo could legitimize his succession ambitions amid tensions with President Emmerson Mnangagwa or alleged tension. The Catholic mediation in the 2017 coup via Father Fidelis, who negotiated Mugabe's exit, sets a precedent for Chiwenga's relationship with the church. His Catholic ties may have facilitated this alliance given Mukonori's Jesuit network and Chiwenga's war-era faith. As of today, with economic challenges and political succession debates intensifying, the church's alignment with Chiwenga could signal a stabilizing force or a strategic move to influence post-Mnangagwa governance. The timing of the photo, post-guild induction, suggests a coordinated effort to project unity. The Catholic Church, representing 8% of Zimbabwe's population, has a history of political engagement from Pius Ngube anti-Mugabe stance to the ZCBC's 2005 election critics. It balances neutrality with activism. Chiwenga's link fits this pattern where faith serves as both personal conviction and a political tool, especially as the church navigates its role in a polarized nation. Chiwenga's Catholic link is both a personal legacy and a political asset. His baptism, war-era Rosary, academic ethics focus on guild induction, and July 13, 2025 Bishop photo underscore faith deeply woven into his identity. As of mid-2025, this connection positions him favorably with the church, potentially shaping Zimbabwe's political future. Whether this reflects a genuine piety or strategic alliance remains a topic for debate. What is your own opinion on this unraveling political saga in the nation of Zimbabwe, as we are witnessing Vice President Constantino Chiwenga alignment with the Catholic Church in the nation of Zimbabwe? In other developments, we see Zimbabwe Minister of Finance making headlines. Not just Zimbabwe Minister of Finance making headlines, but the entire Zimbabwe finance. We see this headline here by the ZIM-I, which reads, ED regime pockets almost $1 billion, 879 million in diaspora cash. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Zimbabweans living in the diaspora bring in more foreign cash to the nation than foreign investors. Here, the Mnangagwa administration has raked in 879 million in just 5 months, yet continues to hide behind the rhetoric of sanctions. What is happening? We see Zimbabwe making a GDP that is far more than that of Rwanda and many other African countries.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're seeing Zimbabwe Minister of Finance, Ngube. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he's back again on the headlines. Zimbabwe GDP now 44 Rwanda's GDP is not 41 billion, no, it is 14.3 billion. Zimbabwe GDP going more than 3 times GDP of Rwanda. Ladies and gentlemen, in the nation of Zimbabwe, where we see power cuts and pipe dreams dreams of economic boom, but the economy is slipping. Big GDP and bigger problems. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna be digging deep into this saga to find out wagwa there.
Because what's happening is there is a part of the economy that was not accounted for. So this rebasing now accounts for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're seeing Zimbabwe Minister of Finance, 𝐂𝐡𝐢𝐰𝐞𝐧𝐠𝐚. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he's back again on the headlines. Zimbabwe GDP now $44 billion. Rwanda's GDP is not 41 billion, no, it is 14.3 billion. Zimbabwe GDP going more than 3 times GDP of Rwanda. Ladies and gentlemen, in the nation of Zimbabwe, where we see all cuts, pipe dreams of economic boom, but the economy is slipping. GDP and bigger problems. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna be digging deep into this saga to find out wagwan there.
Because what's happening is there is a part of the economy that was not accounted for. So this rebasing now accounts for that part of the economy that has been growing silently by stealth, but is not being properly accounted for. And we still believe there's a lot more that was left out because of the informality aspect. So we have to keep refining our methodology. So we want to exchange those revenues because that's based on the tax policies that we'll put in place. But also in terms of expenditure as well, we're going to change that at all because we already...
So this is a new income coming into the nation. We're seeing being announced there by the Minister of Finance. 10 billion in 1 year. Remember, Rwanda is 14.3 billion, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the 44 billion per capita per head of every Zimbabwean, if we divide it as gross per capita per head of a person meaning you or any Zimbabwean, we Zimbabweans, and the 17,825,735 Zimbabweans, ladies and gentlemen, each Zimbabwean gets $2,300. If we just make it per capita of the 14.1%, which is the Zimbabwe government gets, each Zimbabwean gets, let's just put it at $600 round figure. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and what is Minister 𝐂𝐡𝐢𝐰𝐞𝐧𝐠𝐚 talking about here?
Committed to certain projects and so forth, we cannot change. But what we need to do then is to figure out how to, this extra GDP, how can we grow tax revenues from it?
We need to figure out this extra GDP. How can we grow revenues from it? How can we grow? Is it Mtapa Fund? Is it soft tenders or hard tenders? Is it non-performing loans? The only way this money can be used to grow anything is to use it as performing capital, as capital, fundamental capital.
Because the next ratio that you should be aware of in terms of fiscal framework is the revenue to GDP ratio. That this revenue to GDP ratio has now dropped to 14.3%, down from about 17% or so. So that has been a change. So that gap of about $1.5 billion potential.
So he just goes and then he talks about the money there. Let me just assume that that is what he is there to talk about.
What we can then potentially extract from that additional $12 billion to the economy, that the rebasing is telling.
Is the Minister of Zimbabwe Finance, ladies and gentlemen. Now, who is riding high in the nation of Zimbabwe? GDP giant with a tax-hungry soul. Is this money all GDP? Or part of it is a sugar tax? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the government is so desperate that we're taxing even sugar. Remember the history of sugar in the history of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe and sugar, something not sweet there. And Zimbabwe rise from the ashes. So we're going to be comparing Zimbabwe versus Rwanda GDP. What is happening here, ladies and gentlemen? Now, Zimbabwe's audacious 44.4 billion GDP, a glittering lifeline or a house of cards ready to collapse. Then, Rwanda's nimble 14.3 billion economy leap ahead with its strategic finance. Why is Zimbabwe taxing sugar to lithium like a frantic gambling, betting its last chip? Could its infrastructure sink deeper than a black hole? Or could bold moves do save the day? As the clock ticks towards economic reign or economic ruin, will Zimbabwe harness its lithium deposits being most abundant anywhere in the world here in Zimbabwe? Will Zimbabwe harness the shaky currency or electrify the power grid to defy the odds with livelihoods hanging by a thread and the nation's future at stake? These burning questions demand answers. Will Zimbabwe rise or to vanish into the abyss? Let's dive into this African showdown. Zimbabwe versus the nation of Rwanda. Welcome, the economic smackdown of the century. Zimbabwe making 44.4 billion, where majority has no jobs. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Zimbabwe versus Rwanda is a battle where the GDP grows its weight around tax collectors, play a Robin Hood remix without the generosity, and infrastructure projects deliver punchlines that flop harder than a bad stand-up act. This rivalry has more twists than a bakery in Harare. Yes, plots and zingers sharper than razor yakanyura on the sharp. Quite sharp, ndakuita corruption. Lion's razor, leopard. Now, Zimbabwe GDP giant with tax hungry appetite. Talk about gold appetite. In 2023, Zimbabwe swaggered into the spotlight with Zimstat reporting GDP of 44.4 billion, starting like the party's VIP. But let's cut the act. It's more like gate crashing in mismatched the socks. Talk about economy utendera but villa namangoma spokes. Government with the hunger of a king raiding a desert buffet reps 14.1% of that GDP, ranking in 6.2604 billion. Ladies and gentlemen, billions, yes, 6 billion, 2 million, 600,000 and 4,000. This could fund a dazzling bridge. Imagine a 6 billion bridge in the nation of Zimbabwe. What type of bridge would that be? I hope we won't build the Tower of Babel. Okay, or maybe just keep civil servants Zoom calls humming, which devour 45% of the old budget. 45% of the old budget. Now, when the tax hole could buy a yacht, you are rowing a leaky iggy. But with 17,825,735 Zimbabweans on board, the GDP per capita lands 291 gross domestic per capita per head. Because decapitation cape yebodoro a capita per each person sounds like a caviar dream. No, it's more like a stale bread in a leaky basket, split tax revenue. Now each person gets $351.19, swanky meal or a week's worth of airtime to vent about the chaos. Spoiler, so already spent on emergency food imports and power cuts stretching longer than Zimbabwean power cuts. Now Zimbabwe's per capita promise is like winning a scratch off for pocket lint. Who is making money?
Because what's happening is there is a part of the economy that was not accounted for. So this rebasing now accounts for that part of the economy that has been growing silently by stealth, but is not being properly accounted for. And we still believe there's a lot more that was left out because of the informality aspect.
So this money is coming from formalization. Is it formalization or no growth so far? What is in Zimbabwe right now in the meantime? And there is more remaining. Comparing to GDPs of other nations, Zimbabwe may be the biggest GDP in Southern Africa, with the exception of South Africa, the nation which uses direction as a name, no offense. Now, 30.3% of 2022 exports and lithium. Zimbabwe has Africa's largest reserves. The flashy athletes, nickel, copper, other minerals, coal, the informal economy. At 44 billion in PPP terms, whatever that means, 64.1% of the economy. This is clever hustler peddling goods under the radar, keeping the ship from the sinking. 64.1%. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, underground, running things more than the top floor. Who are these Zimbabweans making this 64.1%? How many are economically active? How about if we just increase just to 30%? How much will Zimbabwe make? Just to 40% of the place. Tourism and manufacturing. Imagine in manufacturing. These are kids with potential tags crippled by, okay, just put most of the, even we're talking about exporting. Here, our consumer products, groceries, so-called groceries. Ladies and gentlemen, most of brands and rice and rice and everything else, made in Zambia, made in South Africa. Because you're not Zimbabwe guy, pro brands. So when we're importing the forex kubuda, as number something about South Africa, forex. Are we importing less than we're exporting? Are we exporting more than we're importing? Ladies and gentlemen, taxing, oh my God, Zimbabwe's government taxes more than a dog loves chasing its tail, with 7 to 11 billion in debt. Over 200% of GDP, slamming the door on international loans. They're taxing everything with a breeze. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, even the toilet, sitting Pagaraba chamber, toilet tax, as they're calling it, externalizing, exporting. Corporate taxes, squeezing firms like overripe fruit. Lithium export taxes, pushing in on the lithium rush. Why dig it if you can't tax it? Mining capital gains tax, snagging miners, profits like bargain being raid. Sugar tax, yes, diabetes and debt in one sip. These taxes are like New Year's vows, fleeting the 310 million lithium concentrator plan by 2026. Its guts, its power cuts costing 6% of GDP yearly are like trying to cook dinner during a blackout. Remember, we are proud to be black. We are not proud of the blackouts. Okay. And now we look at both countries combined. Zimbabwe versus Rwanda. The GDP size. Zimbabwe 44.4 billion, flexing like a heavyweight. Rwanda 14.3 billion, punches above its weight with growth and stability, or so we think. Per capita, Zimbabwe 2.491 looks flashy. Rwanda 1043 buys more trust and progress. Oh, growth. Rwanda 6.9 to 8.2% growth laps. Zimbabwe 5% in 2023. Now what's the percent? Yes, like a marathon champ. Yeah. Infrastructure. Zimbabwe's black hole versus Rwanda's power up. Who wins? Lights dim, lights bright. Taxing game. Let me leave that one there. Ladies and gentlemen, 14 billion for the nation of Rwanda. Gross, yes. So what is Rwanda doing differently as compared to Zimbabwe? Why do we have problems? Of course, every nation has a problem. Rwanda, the economic valedictorian who aces every test, 14.3 for 13.7 million people. 14.3 billion for 13.7 million people, yielding 1,000 per capita. That's half of Zimbabwe, but with 6.9 to 8.2 annual growth. In a 2029 projection of 19.24 billion. Imagine, we're in 2025, we are 44 billion. We're projecting in 2029, 19.24 billion. Zimbabwe, if we just stop sleeping and just wake up, our dreams come true. Rwanda's economy is like a viral TikTok dance. Small, but stealing the spotlight. Yes, even in Mozambique, they are Mozambique, DRC, they're stealing spotlight in the Congo. Rwanda money makers. Rwanda's economy is like a hit playlist. Every track slaps agriculture. Coffee and tea at 27% of GDP and 70% of jobs, outshining Zimbabwe's tobacco with a better branding. No nation in this world knows tobacco like Zimbabwe. For actual travel from the Europe to come and learn tobacco farming in Zimbabwe. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you see them guys with them big cigar, they're smoking Zimbabwean tobacco. They're leading with coffee and tea. Do we even grow coffee or tea here in Zimbabwe? Tea leaves. Hey. Services, tourism and conferences, pull in 500 million. That's serious. That's serious. Tourism and conferences with visit Rwanda, smoother than viral trend. And who will be the main attraction there? I haven't staged on it. 44.3% of GDP. Industry and manufacturing, 9.9%. So-called other sectors, 18.7%. Rise thanks to infrastructure and ICT bets. Tech and reforms, not 𝐀𝐉𝐀𝐾, technology and reforms for businesses in Africa, with investments jumping from 400 million to 2.46 billion. Igali's fintech scene is sizzling. What happened to the Mtapa fund? I see the guys initiating that fund. I'm assuming this is where we are going. And then no feedback. Somebody feed his egg or bag. Please give me back. Now, taxes and aid. The Rwanda remix. But this ain't no VIR. No. Rwanda's tax game has soared 20-fold since 2000s. But they are sipping donor aid lattes $85 per capita. East Africa's top. Imagine $85. Zimbabwe mwanu tuitambira kai. 85. It's donor aid latte there in Rwanda. In Zimbabwe, where we see many cases of human abuse rights, issues of sanctions ever since the year 2000 to 2025. How many activists have we seen speaking their abuses? Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Now Rwanda's fiscal flow is tighter than a 𝐂𝐡𝐢𝐰𝐞𝐧𝐠𝐚. We see taxes grants 18% of the 2024 budget, and loans 24%. Zimbabwe one time collapse. My loans were 2000 US non-performing. How do you do that? Handy non-performing monodize my company. Open my credit card. Not importing the Maria loan.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we sign out, the big question in the nation of Zimbabwe. The biggest question in Zimbabwe: how powerful is Vice President Constantino Chiwenga? We're going to be diving into that. How powerful is he?
We all swore to a shared future in which everyone had a place on the table, a place in the sun for a culture of equal opportunity where every Zimbabwean served in equal measure. 𝒂𝒂𝒛𝒆𝒛𝒆𝒔𝒂. Our vision 2030 is for all of us. 𝒀𝒂𝒛𝒆𝒛𝒆𝒔𝒂 𝐂𝐻𝒡𝐢𝐰𝒐𝒍𝒊𝒄. Those who grow big tummies through ill-gotten wealth and questionable morals.
Now, how powerful is Vice President Constantino Chiwenga? Power base, the military, and ZANU-PF faction. Strong military influence. As a former commander of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, Chiwenga maintains deep-rooted ties and loyal networks within the military and security forces. Factional heavyweight. A powerful ZANU-PF faction opposing President Emmerson Mnangagwa bid to extend power beyond 2028 positions Vice President Constantino Chiwenga as the successor in waiting. Internal ZANU-PF battles. Party insiders reportedly tried to unsuccessfully sideline Chiwenga, reflecting his resilience and influence. Public unity efforts. He has made public statements reaffirming Mnangagwa's legitimacy, signaling attempts to project stability amid perceived factional tensions, public perception and opposition, regional discontent. His hometown province publicly begged Mnangagwa, instead eroding some local grassroots support. War veterans backing. A rival faction of war veterans rallied for his ascendancy through broader public support, though broader public support also remains shaky. Now, the outlook and constraints. Military loyalty remains his greatest asset, potentially decisive in any future power shift. Factional joking intensifies as the 2028 succession nears. His path depends on maneuvering through Mnangagwa's counter strategies. Not a guaranteed heir, ZANU-PF has declared the next leader will be chosen democratically at a party congress, so he must secure broad internal backing. In summary, Chiwenga is one of Zimbabwe's most powerful figures with unmatched influence in the military and significant backing within ZANU-PF's core factions, but his power isn't absolute. Local level party-wide support are fragmented, and his future hinges on navigating internal politics, countering Mnangagwa's moves, and consolidating national legitimacy ahead of the year 2028. Big up to Alan Bambile, watching from Panjanja. Pazai Ringwe, Pazai 1. So, this is how powerful Vice President Constantino Chiwenga is as of currently in the ruling party of ZANU-PF. Now, his ties with the Roman Catholic Church. We're gonna go through Chiwenga timeline of his ties with the Roman Catholic, the entire 2025, their meetings from January. On January 10, Chiwenga attends a New Year Mass at the Immaculate Conception in Harare, signaling a public reaffirmation of his Catholic faith. Local media, the Herald, notes his emphasis on unity and national healing in his brief address. January 25, 2025, participates in a ZANU-PF Politburo meeting where he reportedly advocates for economic reforms, drawing on his PhD in ethics to argue for moral governance, a nod to his Catholic principles. In the month of February 4, he is inducted into the Roman Catholic Guild at Immaculate Conception Church, Harare, alongside his wife, Minotabo and Sons. ZBC covers this event, highlighting his commitment to prayer and community service, reinforcing his Catholic image. On February 18, he oversees a health ministry review, launching campaign against cholera, aligning with his church's social justice focus. In the month of March, on the 12th of March, he meets with the Catholic NGOs to discuss food security amid a drought, showcasing collaboration between his political role and church-affiliated aid groups. March 2028 delivered a speech at the Zimbabwe Catholic Bishop Conference annual meeting, praising the church's historical role in education and hinting at future partnerships. On May 5, the year 2025, he visits a Catholic mission school in 𝐂𝐻𝒧𝒑𝒊𝒄. Donating books and pledging support, linking his personal history to current leadership. May 20, meets with foreign diplomats, where his Catholic background is cited as a stabilizing factor in Zimbabwe's international relations. Take note, his Catholic background is cited as a stabilizing factor in Zimbabwe international relations. On June 10, he participates in a national day of prayer organized by Zimbabwe Catholic bishops delivering a message of resilience. June 25 attends a military parade commemorating 45th anniversary of independence, where his Catholic faith is subtly referenced in a speech about moral duty. July 3 holds private discussions with church leaders speculated to involve mediation in ZANU-PF internal conflicts based on his 2017 coup ties via Father Fidelis Mukonori. July 13 featured in a widely circulated ex-post showing him with Catholic bishops in a setting with a Virgin Mary statue, and his central placement sparks debate. His central placement in the picture would spark a debate. And July 14, current date, no major public event is reported, but social media buzz suggests he may address the photo implications soon, possibly via press conference or ZBC broadcast. In August projected, he is expected to lead National Health Summit, leveraging his Catholic-inspired compassion narrative to address ongoing crisis. And on August 20, anticipated participation at the Zimbabwe Catholic Bishops' annual retreat, where he might formalize church-state collaboration. September 10, likely to attend Catholic Church's Festival Day celebration, using platform to reinforce his moral leadership. September 25, projected to meet with Mnangagwa to discuss succession with his Catholic allies, potentially playing a mediation role. October to December, October 15, possible announcement of Catholic-backed community project aligning with his guild commitments. November 10, expected to commemorate 2017 coup anniversary with Catholic leaders present, reflecting Mukonori's role. And December 5, in anticipated end-of-year mass attendance, where he might outline 2026 priorities, blending faith and politics. All right, guys, that was it for now on TV7 Live. Thank you to everybody who was watching us live right about now. Before we sign out, make sure you click the like button and subscribe to TV7 Live if you like our content. Leave a comment if you have any suggestions on TV7 Live. With that, I'm going to sign out. That was Dr. 𝐂𝐻𝐿 on TV7 Live. Be blessed. Be a blessing. Broadcasting from the nation of Zimbabwe in Africa under the state of the Kingdom of God.